Scott Richard, where are we? What are we doing?
We are at Otter Lake Campground in Meendering, Michigan, Upper Peninsula, getting ready to crush the Crusher.
Good luck today, man.
You too, buddy.
We got a little SAG help here.
What's up? It's Michaela.
We got Michaela and Greg and Teresa, and they're going to be our trail angels today.
200 miles of UP fun. Let's do it. From KOM Cycling and Michigan Midpack Media, welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, the podcast that covers the cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Michigan Midpack. I am your host, Trevor, and on this episode, the enhanced gravel race event, experience, adventure out of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, we are talking about this year's The Crusher with my good friend and new Triple Crown member, Mr. Scott Richard. Chances are, if you listen to this podcast, you are familiar with the Crusher, but if you aren't, not to be confused with the lifetime event out of Utah, Michigan's The Crusher offers several distances, choices, that includes 40, a 100, and a 175 distance, and new to this year, a 350-mile event. All of which are, 10 to 15% longer than advertised. And all of them are also comprised of quote-unquote enhanced conditions through the miles of gravel, forest roads, two-track, etc. This year, I knew it was Scott's goal to finish the Mass Start 175, the last race in the trio of 906 races for the Triple Crown Hall of Pain, which includes Polar Roll, Margie Gessick, and of course the Crusher. We get into all of this, but I definitely wanted to be a part of his journey and help him in any way that I could. So I rode along with him for the full 200 plus miles. We did that together to be sure that he would get to the finish line. Honestly, Scott, I don't think I needed to be there with you. You would have got it done without me, but I was glad to help where I could. And also helping us, we had a pro SAG team, possibly the best SAG team that ever was and ever will be. Thank you, Michaela, Teresa, and Greg. I originally did the Crusher back in 2020, and since then I've been wanting to get back, and this year it did not disappoint. It's definitely a consistent community that you see at these 906 races, and very cool to see so many familiar faces, including many from the area of Lansing that went up and took on several of the distances. Finally, one of the most unique features of the Crusher is, besides the Mass Start race day, which we took part in last week, there's also opportunity to experience one of the many different courses in your own time frame. Each course distance has what they call an EX version, giving people an opportunity to crush whenever they wish within a certain couple-month window. And if you haven't experienced the Crusher, there is still time to, and I highly recommend it. But all right, let's get right into it. The Crusher 2024 with Scott Richard. So I kind of wanted to do this morning. Immediately, the immediate morning after we got back from the event, and and that's even giving it a little bit too much credit. It's like 2 hours after we got back from the event because we finished in the morning. But anyways, this morning I was not in the right frame of mind to try to do a podcast. I think you were a little better.
I was a little better. I'm actually, like I said to you before I took a shower, I almost was looking, the sky was starting to lighten up, and it looks like I was like, the sun's going to be up pretty soon.
Yeah, five in the morning when we got back. Should
I stay up and watch the sun come up, or should I go lay down?
I kind of feel like, I'm not sure, but if you would have said, hey, Trevor, let's drink a couple beers and watch the sun come up, I may have done it with you. Or maybe we were just falling asleep in the camping chairs.
Yeah, probably, and temperature probably played a part of that too. I mean, even after...
It was cold.
Yeah, even after taking showers or whatever, it was still a little chilly. But if a campfire was roaring and we didn't have to start it, that might have been a game changer too.
Yes.
To talk about some things.
But honestly, after the 20 plus hours in the saddle and seeing most of the Upper Peninsula by bike, I was ready to sleep. And what did we get, like 3 hours of sleep last night?
Yeah, about that.
But now, Scott, I mean, you seem pretty. I mean, we just left a local Mackinac City establishment, and you were really mixing it up with the local color there, and I just did not want to talk to anyone.
I'm just delirious, that's why.
We're doing something. I'm not sure it's safe or legally recommended, but I thought we'd have this conversation as we're driving back to Lansing. But Scott, talk about what we can start broad and we'll get narrower, but just what did we do this weekend? What did you do this weekend?
So this weekend I did the Crusher Enhanced Gravel Race, the 175-mile version, which was the last box I needed to check for the Triple Crown and become part of the Hall of Pain. This has been the last of the list for a reason. Not necessarily a big gravel race guy, or especially distance gravel, but I knew it was something I needed to do. You months ago had told me, listen, I'm going to do this with you. You obviously already have your Hall of Pain Triple Crown, and he said, you said, listen, I'm going to help you do this race. We're going to get through it, and you were basically my wingman, and you did absolutely that. You were very patient in my pace, and we finished. We did it, and we'll probably talk about other things, but it's been a while since I've been on this podcast to talk about a race that I actually did or completed. I seem to be a sideline reporter, SAG person, up for the event. I've had a little string of bad luck with some events that I've missed, or decided to take that year off of racing, and this was the one. And I came into it a little underprepared. I probably could have did a little bit better with preparation. My wife Andrea wants to go to the beach for a week, and then I've got other things going on. The biggest deal was obviously my mountain bike crash 2 weeks ago, where
that didn't help.
It did not help, and we thought, oh man. And 10 minutes before that happens, you say to me, Scott, don't do anything stupid. You've got a race in 2 weeks. And 10 minutes later, I do something stupid, and I'm picking myself up off the dirt, and I can't feel my hand on my left arm, and I've got shoulder pain, and luckily, that was just a pretty bad stinger. I mean, I've still got some numbness and tingling in my fingers, but now my right hand matches it because I rode a bike for 200 miles.
So I want to pause for a second, because you say like you came in underprepared. Like, honestly, how does one prepare for not not only 200 miles of, I guess, like enhanced gravel, as it is called, but how does one prepare for that to be truly fully prepared? I don't think you do. I mean, you hope you are, but then you just kind of go in and just grind it out, which you did, which you absolutely did.
Yeah. And in fairness, I mean, I had some pretty big rides. I had a mountain bike ride that was an 80-plus mile ride with pretty long saddle time. I just did the High Country Pathway a couple months ago, went all the way around the 80-mile loop for that. So I did have some of that, but I thought maybe, I guess in my mind, because it's a 200-plus mile race, that I needed, let's say, at least a century of gravel or something like that, which I never did. And I just felt like also maybe some of my consistency of my training, like, so it wasn't necessarily that I didn't have those big rides, but I didn't follow through with a lot of consistent riding weeks up to the event.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess too, if we only did those things we wanted to do when we were fully prepared, would we ever do any of the things that we want to do? Because we're never truly fully prepared. But anyways, and then another thing I wanted to touch on, because you brought it up, was you said you haven't really talked about events that you've been a part of and on the podcast, but mostly you've played a support role. I think most notably last September, when I attempted my first Margie Gessick, you were very instrumental in getting me through that as a super sag. And we documented that. We talked about that on the podcast. And that was one of my big motivations to be there for you this time as you were attempting the Crusher, was that you got me through Margie. And I thought, you know what, one thing that I can do is ride with him for Crusher and get him through Crusher. So that was kind of my motivation there, to ride alongside and get you to that finish and get you that Triple Crown.
And it was perfect. I mean, we had a good pace. Everything was perfect. If you got a little spicy or got too far ahead when I thought, hey, dial it back, I'd say, hey, let's dial it back a minute. You were perfect at that, and then you set a pace. I said, this is about the speed we want to go, and you made sure you set that pace. And then there's times you'd come back, and then I would kind of set a pace. I'm like, okay, if it would be a side-by-side ride, I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable at this pace. Let's continue to do that. But circle back to Super Sag. You thought I was Super Sag.
Well, I mean, you were Super Margie Sag.
But we have a new Super Sag.
I mean, the bar has been set, and I will say I don't think it's achievable by anyone in the future. I mean,
not unless somebody shows up with a food truck. Of course, we're talking about our SAG team for Crusher: Michaela, Greg, and Teresa.
And this is a SAG crew that kind of there was maybe one commitment, maybe even a week before, and Michaela really wanted to SAG and be there and support you, and then I think there was like Greg and both Greg and Teresa thought, if it works, we want to be there too. And then the stars aligned, and all three of them were there, and by their powers combined, it was just a truly magical support crew, which, if you're listening to this and you were on course, there's a chance that not only did you see them, but you also benefited
they
from...
They fed you or hydrated you.
Or gave you beer, hot dogs, grilled cheese. I mean, you name it.
Let's start with also our campsite. So we unfortunately did not get in on the list for Otter Lake, which was where the race start was. We were at Fort Superior Rustic Campground, and our SAG crew last minute ended up getting a campsite at Tourist Park in Meendering, and they had lakefront campsite with full hook, with the showers, the water, all that stuff. And they said, why don't you stay with us? And we said, well, we got some buddies that were supposed to stay with the campsite, which Matt, Zach, cheers guys, also 175 Crusher finishers. And we go to their campsite, and they said, this is nice, this is kind of cool. And then we went visit the SAG crew campsite, and we said, oh, yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, we're not leaving.
We're not leaving. So we were fortunate. Not only they were there to take care of us during the race, but also then provided superior accommodations for our event as well.
Superior accommodations.
Superior.
Which just so happens to be the third largest freshwater lake by volume.
By volume.
Yes, in case you wondered. But yeah, so the event, the weekend, which I think started, you wanted to check off the Triple Crown. I wanted to join you. It just went from your idea, I signed up, and then it was a true full crew that kind of, I will say, rallied around you to get you to the finish and get this Triple Crown checked
I was a
off.
bit taken aback by that. I that's the conversation has gone back months ago. Not just Michaela, but actually Teresa had some interest. I think Greg had. I mean, you're right. It all came together within the last week. But those guys had interest, just like you did months ago when I was signed up for this, to say, hey, this is let's help Scott get this last checkbox as part of the Triple Crown. I did a post about it, thanking the people. I mean, it starts with our friend Steve Wickham, who lent me a wheel set that I needed because the bike I was originally going to use for Crusher, I cracked the frame a while back, and I was waiting for a part coming in from Europe, and it hadn't arrived, so I needed a plan B. And so I was going to ride my fat bike, but I didn't necessarily want to use a fat bike wheel set, so he loaned me his plus size wheel set for my fat bike, so it started there. And then these guys coming up and just putting on an amazing SAG stops. I mean, we had sandwiches, they had grilled cheeses, they had hot dogs, they had any beverage you needed and wanted. And I feel that a lot of other racers as well appreciated the heart and soul that they put into their SAG, and a lot of people got to take advantage of their hospitality. And I will tell you absolutely 100%, it is one of the reasons that I was able to finish that event, and probably also others besides myself.
I agree. I mean, seeing a lot of the blank stared souls or soulless corpses going through at certain points, people needed support, people needed a little bit of emotional motivation, and they brought it. One more thing about the SAG crew, and then I want to talk more about your specific experience, but one thing I really appreciated was, as they were talking about their experience throughout the whole day, how they saw it. I guess in my mind, as I said, it was a group that was rallying around you, but then it turned into this thing to be a group that supported the entire race and everyone taking it on. And I feel like the three of them, their role, they saw their role as just boosting morale and providing that support for every single person.
Right.
And that, I think that's super cool. And
yeah, because last year, Teresa and Michaela both did the Mass Start 175 together. And one of the things they thought about Crusher compared to Margie and maybe even Polarol is they thought the neutral support, the SAG, that kind of stuff was maybe a little more lacking than the two other events for Crusher. So I think they set that as a goal, we're going to do this and we're going to do it right. People are going to remember this SAG for this event. And also, by them doing that race last year, it became very helpful to what spots on course would be ideal for those guys to meet us. They knew Michaela had this old school paper map that I think her husband Andrew had gotten, and she has like highlighted the whole route on this map, and they had the course overlay from last year's where they were. Even though it was a little different, they were able to match up some locations of where to be for our next stops, and it just went flawless.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'll complain about is we had a bit of beer for post-race ready to go, and I'd say it was kind of our stash of beer. And a certain crew, which
damn Canadians,
which will rename. Well, no, but certain Canadian crew came in there and drank all our beer. So,
but we teased.
Yeah.
It was amazing that those guys. Actually, first of all, it was amazing that those guys drank beer the entire race
and finished
ahead of us, by the way, and
ahead of us, yeah.
And but it was great to see them enjoying that, and they teased us. They're like, well, if you want your stuff, why don't you get ahead of us, and then you can have your stuff first. And I'm like, well, but I can't. We did beat them to one of our SAG stops once, but I think that's only because they stopped at the bar and in Chatham or something like that. That's probably the only reason we got past them. But
no, that's cool. It was, and that's the kind of thing about an event like. I mean, like, whether it's Margie or something like Crusher, it's really cool just to see the same faces over and over again, and you kind of become like brothers in battle together. Like, yeah, you still going strong? Okay, how's it going? And you just keep kind of playing leapfrog with these different faces. But yeah, that's just one of the cool things. Okay, so we immediately got into some real inside baseball details about this, but the amazing SAG. But I do want to talk about first of all, just like your journey leading up to it, and then how your experience was. So you mentioned a little, in your mind, you felt a little underprepared, and maybe your body wasn't fully operational as you would want.
But honestly, I think I always feel that. Like, I don't ever feel completely prepared for an event. The closest I've felt prepared for an event is when I was going to do the Margie 100 in 2021 and ended up tearing my hamstring a month before the race, water skiing, which we've talked about on this podcast before. And that was actually the probably best prepared I thought I was going to be for an event. Came back obviously the next year,
which we can file that under. Hey, Scott, don't do anything stupid right before.
That's exactly why you said that to me 2 weeks ago.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so I guess I always feel that. Now, I do think if I have a strong attribute is just kind of that willpower and to get it done and get finished. I think a lot of the 906 events, that's a big part of it too, is the mental game.
For sure.
And I feel pretty strong with that because, again, I'm used to going into some events, I used to get the nickname, the moniker, coming off the couch. Like I've done a lot of big events and done a lot of racing with maybe minimal preparation. And so they used to tease me and they call me coming off the couch. And then I would actually produce decent results and have good things happen to me with maybe minimal training. But I think a lot of that was good mindset and just being able to push through some stuff, and so I felt comfortable with that part of it. So I checked that box, like, okay, this is a 906 event. It's going to be a mind game. You're going to be out there a long time, and you just have to stay positive, stay focused. Check, the finish line is your goal. You need to get there no matter how. And so that's one of the positives that I bring as far as my preparation.
Yeah, and I think that was, I was witness to that firsthand during Crusher yesterday, that no matter what, I feel like you were, your mental game was strong, and I mean, I think only a couple times did I see you, not frustrated is the word, but and I'm not even sure concerned, but there were a couple moments that I saw you dip a little low, but that lasted not long at all, and that was probably towards the first half of the day.
Yeah, about halfway. I knew probably at some point, because of my lack of preparation, that I probably might have some maybe a cramp issues with my legs or something like that, and I wasn't sure when that was going to happen, and it started just probably just touch before halfway at halfway, and so I knew, okay, like now's the time that I need to have a game plan in order to finish this process. And fortunate, I was able to manage that. I never got full-on cramps. If something was firing or some twinging, I was able to back off and do some things, and it seemed like I stayed well hydrated, and the nutrition was good, so I had all those tools going for me, and I could just dial back the watts or the power, and it would settle down, and then as soon as it did that, I was able to kind of go back at it again. And sometimes it would be a duration of like, all I had to do is lay off the power for a minute or two, and then I could power up again for maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and it was just, and actually that's the first time I've actually been that successful with that type of thing, and that's why I refer probably mostly to really good nutrition and hydration, and because I made it the entire race after that started at halfway point, and we got all the way through the finish line, and I never got a full cramp in my legs at all, and which I was concerned about. But I thought, oh, for sure, we're going to go back to the campsite, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to lay down, and all of a sudden I'm going to be like full lockdown, cramp. It's gonna, I mean, this is going to get bad. I never, even as we talk now on Sunday afternoon, I never had one cramp in my leg.
I did look forward to, because you slept in a hammock.
I did.
And I was really hoping something would cramp or lock up as you were trying to get in or out of that said hammock. And if I could witness that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, going into attempting something as difficult and strenuous and long as the Crusher is, I think everyone kind of has those things in their head of what can, or what am I worried about that might go wrong, and what I hear you say is you're pretty sure that you could mentally get through it, but you weren't sure if you could necessarily physically push yourself, or you were kind of a little concerned about the body, but you were pretty sure about the mind. But in a weird way, at the end, it was a combination of both, because you didn't muscle your way through it, Scott. You rode smart and used your brain to not overdo it, and then rode within yourself and got yourself to the finish.
Yeah, and I think that's like lessons learned too. I mean, I've they always say, well, your body has more in it than it's telling you it does. You can push past that stuff, push past the pain. But I've also had rides. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a race, but I've had rides in the past where I've gotten a cramp and I was like, oh, fine, and I just keep pedaling, but it's actually full-on cramp and you just keep going, and then, I mean, it just destroys you for a week. Like, you just feel terrible, your muscles feel terrible. And I thought, well, maybe, I mean, especially when you're talking about a distance of 100 miles plus left to go, I'm like, I need to maybe try something a little different. And it was like management. I mean, like, it was a management of my body. Like, I think, like you said, it was kind of, I just kept a steady pace, kept a steady going. I kept repeating over and over if necessary, dialing back the power and then going back at it, and it worked. Actually, that was the most successful it has ever worked for me. And then, like I talked about earlier, and I said again, I attribute that to hydration, nutrition.
you identify mostly as a trail rider, mountain bike. You say that, but you do dabble in gravel, and I think, it's fun because a lot of us ride gravel. I feel like it's part of your fitness gear,
right?
Regiment.
Not race, not race gravel. I've done the Roubaix twice, but like that's not really what I do.
Not racing, but you'll ride it.
Yeah, ride it, and then most of our gravel stuff is all short, 35 miles,
but
40 miles,
like
50
you
miles.
said, gravel isn't necessarily what excites you. Even if it's quote unquote enhanced gravel, I'm not sure that is what you would gravitate toward.
Correct.
Now on the other side of Crusher, though, how do you? What are your thoughts about the course? What's your general? What are your takeaways? Just in terms of the course, of the experience, of the area, not necessarily. What's your takeaways on that?
So I feel the enhanced version of gravel was the part that kept it interesting for me as, again, mostly a mountain bike guy. So I thought that the course was great. There's the things that people complain about, sand and water and all those things, but to me, that's what kept it interesting from start to finish. And so I enjoyed that. Now, 200 miles of that, was that something I'd probably do again? I don't know. I say no now, but who knows? I am interested now that I've got my toes wet and I've got a little taste for it. And Todd has created all these other EX, even the shorter, all these different 40-mile routes and things like that. And I said, "Ooh, maybe that's something I would like to try and go on some of these routes and see some of these other adventures, as I'm going to call them." So I came out with a positive. When I said before that this was the last box to check off, because I thought like this really wasn't my thing, and I came out on the other side of it with an appreciation for it, and actually had a really good time on course and going the route, and with the checkpoints and all that stuff. It's cool because for me, this is Crusher is a race. I guess it's touted as a race. You sign up for something, you register, it's mass start. But for me, these really big events, including Margie Polo, I don't necessarily look at them that way. For me, it's an adventure, and it's just getting to the finish line within the time allowed, and that's.
Yeah, I think it's a little different than just an adventure, though. Because you have a goal, and you go to complete that goal. An adventure can, I don't know. Now we're getting into semantics, but like. Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Give it more respect for what I did.
Yeah,
and,
for what you
and
took,
how. Yeah,
for what you took on. It's maybe you don't want to call it a race, and maybe I want to even call it a race. But it was a huge undertaking, a huge goal, and you went in to finish. And that is an adventure, but I think it's a little bit more than that. I guess maybe when I was asking you about the course and about this, I did see a bit of you outwardly really enjoying some of these in my take, I thought were beautiful gravel roads, huge sweeping hilly sections of gravel roads, and I thought the course was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And
well, this brings up the point too where we've had this conversation during the race about what bike of choice, which bike do I ride, and
we keep saying gravel, and I think you could probably call it probably most of the terrain was gravel, but I rode my full suspension mountain bike.
Which was also supposed to be my bike of choice. We talked earlier about how I broke the frame, and it wasn't ready yet. So then I went to the fat bike with plus size tires because my gravel bike was never first choice for this race for me, and it was mostly about comfort. I didn't necessarily want to be on a drop bar bike, and everybody's different. But like I said, with a mountain bike kind of being my forte, I didn't necessarily want to ride my gravel bike for 200 miles. And we talked about, we started this conversation early in the ride saying, we picked the right bikes. And then we get to sections like, if you had a gravel bike, this, you can get pretty good pace in this section for quite some time. And then we get right back into something else, sand, wherever, and be like, this is the right bike. And I think that's, and you've heard that before from others that have ridden this ride, and says your bike's gonna always be the right choice until it's not. Like it's one of those races where or rides that you three bikes are the right bike.
And that's what I kept bringing up. I kept thinking and saying, I'm not sure if I've really gotten to a point where I think a gravel bike is the right choice for this. I was really happy with my mountain bike, especially with how rough some of the parts were. And I really wonder how much one would gain on the gravel roads with something like with a gravel bike, when there was enough enhanced sections that I thought the mountain bike was a great choice. And then you could probably do like a drop bar bike with mountain bike tires. I think suspension helped quite a bit, so maybe a fork in front. And then I thought, well, maybe you do a mountain bike with aero bars.
And we saw everything out there. We ran the gamut. From fat bike to just a traditional gravel bike. Like it was everything in between. There was everything out there. And so I think ultimately, which I had made the decision on, is based on comfort for me. Again, without necessarily the race mentality that this is a you said I can't just call it an adventure, but with the goal of just trying to finish within the time, that was the bike I was most comfortable on. I told you that probably, you're having a very successful racing season on gravel, and if you were going to sign up for Crusher solo without being a support for me, that maybe gravel would be because based on your speed and your ability, that you could make up maybe more gains off of the amount of gravel if you were on that bike instead of having something for everything. But you're right. But you ultimately have to be comfortable.
I would love to talk with I just had Nick Stanko on, and we talked about Coast to Coast, which it's probably a pretty good comparison to Crusher. 200 miles, both around 200 miles. Both have some real seasonal sandy sections. I think Crusher is a little more with the seasonal roads. Definitely is. But he went, full gravel bike. I think he was riding slicks. And he won it. He won Crusher this year, and I'd be interested to hear his take on it after the fact, if he was happy with his choice or not. One of the main things...
He has to be happy.
Well, yeah. Well, if you would... I guess you're right. But one of the things I thought immediately was you get into some real sandy stuff, and I think the course changes yearly, and some of that early sand and seasonal road was, I think, a new addition this year, right? Yeah. And within a couple miles, you're into it. And kind of in the back of my head, I was thinking, well, if I was racing this, and I got to this point with a mountain bike, then you could probably put some time in real early and maybe have enough of a gap and stay pretty far ahead. But who knows? That's all super hypothetical and not really the conversation we need to be having right now.
And I'm not sure, does Nick own a bike with straight bars?
I think he just recently. I think he has I'm pretty sure he has a acquiring, which he rode for Lumberjack.
Oh, yeah.
To some great success. So, so you were.
Congratulations, Nick, by the way, on your win.
So were you happy? Yes, congratulations, Nick. Were you happy with all that said? You rode your fat bike, salsa, muckluck with your plus size tires on it.
We can't say my plus size tires. With Steve's plus size tires.
Well, I mean, as long as they're on your bike, I mean, they may never come back.
He might want them back.
But were you overall were you happy with that choice? Do you think
absolutely
that was, okay.
that was the best choice, and like I said, almost by luck, because that wasn't necessarily my first choice.
By muck luck?
It was by muck luck that I'm dumb.
I thought just kind of watching you ride and going through the sections. Yeah, I mean when I had some hesitancies and doubts that you were going to ride a fat bike, and not that people can't ride a fat bike, but I just didn't think it'd be the most efficient and correct bike for you to ride and get this thing done. But as we were getting ready, and we rode our rigs back in out of East Lansing a few days before, just to make sure that everything was working right. And it was the first time I saw that bike with the plus size tires on, and you had your packs on there, and I was like, you know what? This looks like a proper crusher rig, and it didn't seem like crazy heavy, and I thought, okay, I think this is going to be the right bike. And just watching you, get through everything and ride strong all day, I also still think that it was the correct bike.
Yeah, it's easy, with a successful finish, then you can say, oh, I did all the right things. I mean, if for some reason I didn't finish that ride and I was unable to complete it for whatever reason, then you start bringing up questions. Well, should I have done this different, or should I do this different? But I mean, at this point, you look like you look great. You did all the right things. You set a goal to complete it. You did that. So obviously, all the choices you made were successful. So you did all the right things.
Low points, high points.
Low points was definitely the when my legs did start to act up again. I guess. Well, let's circle back. Because of that crash I had 2 weeks ago, there was some concerns that possibly could become a potential problem
with your shoulder,
with the shoulder, my hands and arms.
Yeah.
Again, I did a couple rides since the crash, and I felt like that it wasn't going to be a problem. But those were also 30-mile tops, not nothing for on the bike for hours and hours. And so I thought, well, maybe even though it loosens up, then maybe it goes and reverts and goes the other direction. Just as my neck and my shoulder and all that stuff start to act up after time. So once I realized that was going to be a non-issue, and I went back to, okay, it's my legs. That's usually what will give me some problems. When that started halfway through, that was kind of a low point. I'm like, man, this is really early. Excuse me. This is really early in the ride, halfway through, to be dealing with this, and what are you going to do? But Margie, when I finished, I had problems at mile 30 of the 100.
Yeah.
And was able to bounce back, come back around, and then actually started to feel stronger as the race went on. And I feel like that's kind of what happened to me, even that crusher. I had that kind of spot. So. I was dealing through it. I was able to manage it. And then as the race went on, and we had some of that elevation and stuff on the tail end of it, and I was climbing. I was not having any problems. Just kept going, and it worked out. So, but that was the low point, based off of when that happened, not knowing that I was going to be able to manage it as well.
And that was right around even the first selfie checkpoint, right? Before the first selfie checkpoint or after that?
No, it was after.
Okay.
It was after. No, because that first selfie check was mile 30 or whatever. It was not. No, it was maybe this maybe actually, yeah, I say halfway, but it was maybe mile 70-ish.
Okay.
Between 70 and 100, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Could be a similar time in the saddle as mile 30 of Margie, though. If you're thinking about it, like time-wise, it could have been similar that way.
Well, I think it would be because I went out pretty fast at Margie for whatever weird reason. I thought I could do that, and so that's what kind of hurt me at Margie. But either way, like if you look at the percentage of what total time on the bike or total mileage, it's it's similar. High point was. I'm gonna go back to just all the support that I had with yourself, with the SAG team, and every time I saw those guys, and just uplifting and just the surprise of how much I enjoyed the course when I thought like that was my negative about like, oh, it's going to be a gravel race and I really don't want to do that, but all the cool different sections and all the change in course and just being out in the middle of nowhere in the UP, and it was amazing. I mean, how about the sunrise? Remember that?
Oh man,
stopping in that open area with the sunrise coming up, and it was just.
And then the moon at the end.
And then the moon.
I mean, that's the only reason we took so long, and we wanted to be out there when it was dark to see that moon because it was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, how about for you? I mean, I know you're talking to me about this. Did you have a low point and a high point, Trevor?
I mean, I think my low point was probably, I mean, towards the end, and by end I mean it was several hours. I mean, it got cold, and
skinny guys,
and I was I had arm warmers and a base layer to throw on, but I mean, you're riding for damn near 20 hours. It is mentally fatiguing, and I think that it was getting to me a little bit.
Well,
I was cold, and I was just like, you know what, and it wasn't a thing like I was like, we need to go faster. It never was that. It was just like I just kept thinking, we just need to get this done, and let's get it done, and I'm ready for it to be done. And
in fairness, though, that is, I mean, that is a different game for you. Like you supporting me and my ride is different than, especially like I said, as well as you've been racing this year and even doing these big events, the coast to coast, like all these stuff. You're used to being able to lay down power for long periods of time, get going, and I think like even though you were there for me, I can imagine as the days get longer that like it kind of takes a toll.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess in a real way, I mean, it's like I always ride events and things like pretty selfish, where it's about the pace I set, it's about my goals, it's about what I want to accomplish. Rarely do I really go out and ride with a crew for an event, like or a race. Like if I'm racing, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go out and do this and work for myself and try to get it done. It's a pretty rare thing to do, or I don't know if I've ever done anything like that where I am supporting and
so it was good for you. You needed something like that in your life.
I think it was good for me. I mean, honestly.
But you're right. But like your mindset, it's different.
Yeah.
We talk about all our.
But I did kind of. It was like you would go back and forth. I would go back and forth and like I would think, okay, we need to do this, and I was like, no, we don't need to do this. Like I'm thinking that because that's what I want, but it's not about that. And the better thing is, like, how can I best get you to the finish?
Yeah, well, you did perfect. You did amazing, and for like I said, that, and I already talked about that, but yeah, you did great.
Well, I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, that wasn't the easiest thing to get used to, and I don't think I was perfect at it, but yeah.
But if I stayed vocal and I said, like you're like, because sometimes I would let you, if you'd go off the front, and I really wouldn't say anything to you. I'd just kind of let you go, and I would sit back and kind of let go, and you turn around he's like, why didn't you say something? So then when we were working together later on, once in whether I'm behind you or doing whatever, I would kind of say something to you. I'm like, okay, let's can we go back? Can we dial back just a little bit? Can we? And you were perfect with that. And so as long as I communicated properly with you, then it was. And I mean, that started working. I was like, well, yeah, I guess I should have did that early. And not that. I mean, we did a lot of side by side riding. I mean, on stuff too. I mean, it really depends on how I was feeling or where the wind was. And I mean, because I said, heck, if he's going to help me get through this thing, I might as well draft a little bit. I mean, it's a gravel race.
I did enjoy every once in a while when you would just slide behind me and get on my wheel. And I don't think it was always because you felt like I can't keep this pace. Like I usually took it as you're like, okay, Trevor, like keep something steady and let's just ride pretty steady for a while.
So funny story, right? We're doing this gravel section. It's gravel road. It's smooth gravel. It's wide open. You're in front. I'm right behind you. We're going. And then we pass some guys, and then they hop on behind me. And I think it's two guys. And then it actually ended up being a third.
Let me catch another. Yeah.
And then the guy behind me goes, I could get up front and do a little work. I don't want to just
mooch off
the wheel here. And I said, no, you stay back there. I said, I don't need him to be any faster. And he's happy up there. He likes it up there. Just leave him alone. And they were laughing. And then they went around and just left us.
Yeah, I enjoyed just kind of setting that pace. And I mean, it wasn't always perfect. I think, like you said, sometimes I got a little spicy, but just that communication kept us where we needed to be. So I mean, so anyways, long kind of around. Like, I think mentally, a 20-hour ride is hard, no matter what. And it was getting to me at the end a little bit, just because it was dark, it was cold, and it's going to be tough. And
then your highlight?
I hate to steal an answer, but I think it really was the crew and the vibe and positivity that they brought to the whole thing. I mean, it was like really, I was thinking about this a lot because I had done the mass start. Scott, where do I park for this place?
You can go around back.
Okay. In 2020, I did the mass start. It's like 225, which was 250, but it started out of Forestville Campground. Forestville Campground, is that what?
Yeah, Forestville.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was more like the route was more around the Marquette area, not necessarily Munising, and south of Munising. And I just remember some very specific memories of the route, and locations that I feel like maybe this route was missing. I mean, you do the mouth of the Huron River crossing. You do. We went up to Lance, which is really, really cool. And this one was beautiful. The area was. The course was great, but I guess like the Laughing River Falls was cool. Silver Falls was kind of a pain in the ass to get down into, but still was pretty cool. But anyways, long thing to say. I think the thing that I will remember most of this event will not be those locations, those specific locations of the course, but will be all of the times we met with our crew, and they really supported us and pumped us up and got us out. So that definitely was I think the most memorable thing, or will be the most memorable thing of this, and my highlight. But all right, I think we need to wrap this thing up.
Wrap it up,
Scott.
Trevor.
Way to be a Triple Crown Hall of Pain member.
Thank you.
Congratulations on a great ride.
Thank you.
A great event.
Thank you. Thank you for all your support. And that's I kind of felt that also from you guys, like you guys are proud parents almost, like the SAG crew. You guys like to get me through, and
maybe I think maybe that was my highlight, was just the hope was to be there and to support you and to hopefully get you a finish, and it could not have gone better.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, man. Congrats.
Thanks, bub.
The Dirty Chain Podcast is a Michigan Midpack Media production in partnership with KOM Cycling, the source for your bike accessories and necessities. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirty Chain Podcast. If you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you use to listen. Audio editing and original music by myself, Trevor Gibney. A huge thank you to Scott Richard for helping me out with this podcast, to Michaela, Teresa, and Greg for crewing us through the Crusher, and for all of you for listening to the Dirty Chain Podcast. And as always, keep your chain clean, but get your chain dirty. We will see you in the Midpack.